All right, welcome back to Morning Live. As I told you earlier before we took a break, we want to talk about the predicaments Kenyans have been through in this country. Labor Day came and went, but still the cost of food in this country is kind of mind-boggling. Some people are actually having 1 meal a day and life continues, but still, as Kenyans, sometimes we complain and nothing happens. So used to kind of that vicious cycle of complaining, and of course, the next year, and May 1st again, we just actually talk about the same thing. The government promised to maybe to handle Kenyans as far as now their pay is concerned. Nothing happened. And of course, right now in studio, I'm joined by Joseph Shimeha, who is the Executive Director of Inform Kenya, and of course, Dr. Omar Oluga, who is the Secretary General of the KMPDU. And of course, they'll be telling us more about now the predicaments Kenyans have been going through in terms of now just to be able to put food in their table, because that's the bigger picture. Welfare, and of course, just your whole well-being as a human being. Joseph, Daktari, karibuni sana.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Maybe I'll start with you, Joseph. Labor Day always comes and goes, but still same rhetoric, cliche statements, increase. Oh, right now we have a new twist, the housing levy, do something about it. It's just the same thing. Kenyans just being kind of just milk all the time. And what's your opinion on this Labor Day?
I think what particularly the Secretary General of COTU, Central Organization of Trade Unions, was talking about, has been talking about, or at least what he was reported to be talking about, for me, is a betrayal of trust of workers. That you do not use workers' plight to bargain for things that are for the benefit of a very small elite in this country. You know, it's all right and it's good to ask for workers to be remunerated better, but it doesn't start and stop there. It's not just about how much people earn. It's about so many other things, including the work environment, the work conditions, and many other things that are supposed to make a worker happy, to produce, for this country. But to limit it to pay rises, and you know what, the government could decree that, the minimum wage be raised by 20%, and it could be raised, but workers will still be struggling.
That's true.
Reason, you expect that an organization that defends the rights of workers would defend much more, would pursue much more than just saying, let's have a transactional relationship where you increase the minimum pay levels, and then you give, we will accent to what you want in terms of this housing levy, which to me is a completely unacceptable thing. Is completely unreasonable. I don't even see its feasibility. I do not see how many workers will be able to work, and I don't know for how many years to ever get a house. And as many times has been said by even better informed people, economists than myself, many workers by choice have houses. Those who live in urban areas where they're talking about beginning to build houses, most of them are renting houses by choice. To the extent that they're able to afford those houses. They rent those they can afford. Most of these people, including those who live in what we call informal or informal settlements or slums, have very beautiful houses, in their home areas, in their rural areas. Not everybody though, but to say that you can use this as a bargaining chip so that you impose this levy on workers who will hardly ever get these houses, for me is unacceptable. So to just cut it short, I expect that the Central Organization of Trade Unions would be worrying about the overall political economy of this country, would be worrying about where our politics is leading us, because it's leading us into the wrong direction. How our corrupt politics is affecting our economy, and how overall that is hurting workers, so that we solve the foundational problems rather than engage in transactional relationship like you give me this, I give you that, and we think we've solved.
Unfortunate. Daktari,
yes,
you've been in the picture for quite some time, just to fight for the rights of doctors, fights for the right of medical, fights for medical personnel, and trust me, it's still we're still actually going through a situation whereby as much as we want to achieve this bigger picture of having a seamless society in terms of just welfare for our people, look at what is happening in the country. For God's sake.
I think I can let me first and foremost make a few comments about the Labor Day and the significance of Labor Day. So Labor Day came about because of the, during the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of atrocities in terms of working hours specifically.
Yeah.
And when the 8-hour working program was declared, that is actually what started to be celebrated as Labor Day. And it is important for people to actually look at this 8-hour working program that we now have across the world. Even in places like the United States, they just passed the law in 1938. In Kenya here, I think we found the agitation going on, so at the time of independence, it almost began seamlessly. But the issue about the 8-hour working program was because families and basically working people needed time to also be with their families, to take care of their children. Because you work for 8 hours, which is a third of your life. It's a third of your life, so it's very important. Let me also make 3 very important comments about the whole issue of labor. You know, as a human being, there are 3 very important things that will determine how happy or how successful or how developed you are as a human being. Forget about work. Number 1 is what we call social support, or who do you turn to when you're in a crisis. Number 2 is your income. How do you manage to afford life around you? You know, how do you pay for food? How do you pay for housing, whether it's yours or whether you rent it? How do you take your children to school? Income. That is determined by income, largely. And then number 3 is what we call the quality life expectancy. Now, this quality life expectancy, there are many countries in the world that have even very high life expectancies, like Cuba, and I've seen a lot of reports about Cuba. People manage to live very long, but they live very poor lives. So it's not quality life expectancy. So if you have quality life expectancy, you're living in an environment that is safe, that is not worrisome, you know, that you are able to also have a good income to afford these other things. That's very important. So coming to the whole issue of work and human capital is what determines those 3 things. And that's why Labor Day is very important, because human capital is us. It's Joseph, it's myself, it's you, it's what you're doing here. It's trying to determine how this human capital is applied to produce, either reproduce capital or produce social gains. And those social gains could be what I have called quality life expectancy, a good environment, happiness in a country, you know. There are many countries that they don't have as much income, but they have very high quality life expectancy, like Morocco, for example. So these things have happened before. So Labor Day should actually focus on workers and how they achieve these 3 things. In much of the time, and I'll talk about the minimum wage and the agitation to increase the minimum wage, because many Kenyans sometimes misunderstand. Minimum wage is important. Minimum wage is important as far as one thing is concerned: inflation. And perhaps economists like Joseph would say that inflation is actually a hidden tax, because inflation comes about when, you know, sometimes the central banks what they call, they oversupply the market with money in order to service either debts or to service deficits in their budgets and things like that. So when that happens, then inflation occurs. Now, when inflation occurs, it means that the money that you're earning has much less value. So if you were earning 20,000 shillings last year, and for Kenya, we have always been between 7 to about 11%, but depending on the year. Sometimes during elections, it goes a bit higher. But we are between 7 and 11%. That means that every single year, your income loses value by about 7 to 11%. So when we are asking for minimum wage, it's not because that's the only thing that we can ask for. It's because we know that last year, your income has lost value by 11%. So the things that you could afford, you can't afford them. So you are 11% less than what you can afford them. So I do understand when the Court Secretary General, for example, insists on minimum wage, because that's also a way of trying to tell the government, please cushion us from inflation. And this is basically what we call the price of goods, and the cost of living goes up. Those cost of living goes up because we call it cost of living is going up, but basically what it means is that your income has lost value.
Yeah.
It's not the cost of living that has gone up.
It's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true. And I believe that solutions, because now as much as you're talking about inflation, your pay kind of depreciate, the value it is. Maybe after the break we'll be talking about all this. But of course, Chris Migwambo is standing by somewhere. But we're taking a short break. Chris will be talking to the common Mwananchi just to have a feel of how they're taking life. Because now as it is, trust me, life is not easy in this country. Inflation, all these stocks, and also, after the break, our leaders, and in billions, they're really kind of milking everyone in terms of you as a taxpayer. All that coming to you after a short break. All right, welcome back to Morning Live. As I told you earlier before we took a break, it seems like Kenyans are kind of fed up with what's happening in the country. Kenyans are mad. And before we come back and talk about this with my able panelists here, let's go straight to Chris Migwambo, who's standing by in the streets of Nairobi live to bring us what is happening, because now he'll be talking to few Kenyans just to hear the sentiments about the current economic issue. At the end of the day, it's all about what you take home, what you put on the table. Chris Migwambo, if you can see us, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Nick Mudimba. We are here at the Bellevue stage, and as you know very well, right now, another day, another hustle for Kenyans from all walks of lives. And right now, here, there is mixed reactions amongst Kenyans. If you remember, 2 days ago, Kenyans celebrated Labor Day, but so far, from the reactions of Kenyans, it's like they don't have anything to smile about or to celebrate, considering that this year, we had the Labor Day celebration that had the least turnout. And one reason is that Kenyans believe that it's now time the reality be spoken in terms of workers having their issues really ironed out, in considering the minimum increment wage that was highly anticipated to be given out by the president. That was the president was to give a 15% salary increment, as earlier had been anticipated by workers, but that did not happen. And then again, if you look at the cost of living right now, it has become so high. And now joining me is a resident of Nairobi, that is Benson Mwangi. Benson Mwangi, asante sana kwa kuungana na Switch TV. Leo asubuhi tunauliza swali, wewe kama Mkenya, hali ya maisha imekuwaje?
Hali ya maisha imekuwa ngumu sana, tukilinganisha like 10 years ago. Maisha ni ile ile, salary ni ile ile, maisha imekuwa ngumu. Unaona hata rent inapandishwa, lakini mshahara ni ya kutoka ile miaka 10 imeisha. Sasa tukilinganisha na hii wakati, mimi sioni haja hata ya hiyo Labor Day.
Wewe kama Mkenya, ukiangalia hali ya maisha, wapi na wapi unaona labda kuna vitu zinafaa zifanywe?
Vitu zinafaa zifanywe ni kama maisha imekuwa juu, salary nayo inafaa kuwa juu. Tukilinganisha na miaka hizo ya hapo mbele, naona hata saa hii venye tunafanya kazi hapa, yani ile mshahara tulikuwa tunalipwa like 3 years ago, saa hii hata ni kidogo kuliko yenye tunalipwa saa hii. So according to me, naona kama maisha iko hivyo, sisi bado salary tuongezwe, iache kushuka sana.
Asante sana. Nick Mudimba, there you have it. He has been very categorical that when the salary is, when the cost of living is high, then the salary also should be increased. And this is just bringing us back to the World Bank report, whereby in 2 months' time, the World Bank released a report that Kenya is having the largest number of unemployed youths in East Africa. This is a question, this is a report that has brought a lot of reaction amongst the youth, considering that out of the Big Four agenda, creation of job, and remembering that Labor Day also had its theme this year, as eliminating poverty and creating job opportunities. But from the look of things, it hasn't been that way for most Kenyans. And I'm now joined by another resident of Nairobi, who is also having that opportunity now to express his views considering the low turnout of Kenyans and workers during the Labor Day celebrations. Karibu sana katika Switch TV. Wewe kama Mkenya, hali ya maisha imekuwaje? Tumeona juzi wa Kenya hawakufika pale katika uga wa Uhuru ukilinganisha na miaka iliyopita. Hali ya maisha imekuwaje?
Kwanza mimi naitwa Josh Nyareru. Mimi ni mkaashi wa South B hapa karibu na Bellevue upande wa Brownsville. Sasa ile kitu kiliniudhi kabisa, FKE hawa wanasema ni waajiri wetu hawakufika katika hiyo mdahalo, yani hiyo mkutano, lakini sasa inaonekana those our employers, they don't even mind about vile tunafanya kazi ama nini. Wao wanajijazia matumbo yako. Even these people like unions and hata wao wamekuwa compromise. Kitu wanaonekana ni kubweka huko kwa mikutano, hakuna hata kitu wanatusaidia.
Ukiangalia saizi pale serikali kabla tuende uchaguzi walisema wataongeza nafasi za kazi. Hadi kufikia sasa, wewe kama Mkenya, ukiangalia katika nyanja zote za hapa nchini, nafasi za kazi unaweza sema unaziona?
Kwanza nafasi za kazi hakuna, lakini ninaona hii bodaboda ilikuja ni kama ilijaribu kuchukua a lot of youth. Hata inji ingekuwa alimbaya zaidi kama sio hii bodaboda. Bodaboda at least imeongeza, lakini upande wa kuongeza makazi, kwa vile industries zinarudi chini, sioni kama vile kazi zinatengenezwa. Hata even upande wa education kuna a lot of youth wale wamemaliza college, watu wamelala, they are not employed. We have so many, even doctors, we have so many doctors who have been qualified, wote wako nyumbani. Sioni hizi kazi zinatengenezwa namna gani.
Asante sana. Nick Mudimba, there you have it. Just mixed reactions. Kenyans are not really welcoming the Labor Day celebrations, and up to now, it's now remaining a matter of Labor Day being an ordinary day like any other day, where only few who benefit. Mudimba.
Very much, Chris Migombo, for your sentiments, and of course that's very sad, and no one is happy out here. At the end of the day, as we told you earlier, it's about just taking that food, putting it on the table at home. Is kind of tedious. The hustle is really, really tight out here. Kenya Bureau statistics said 73% of youths are unemployed in this country. Dr. Oluge is here telling me that even doctors are even unemployed, teachers unemployed. Why is this country going surely? But again, Joseph, we talk about the anger capabilities and the meters, the meters we're talking about. Do you think Kenyans will get kind of angry? At the same time, I'm angry, I want to go to protest, but still at the end of the day, I need to put food on my table. What are your sentiments on this?
You know, I begin by laughing.
which shows that you're not angry. But anyway.
It may be that I just have no better way of expressing myself, even in anger, than to laugh first. You know, on a serious note, because of the dire situation in which this country we find ourselves in, dire economic, social, political situation that we find ourselves in. You're right, a lot of people are extremely angry because of you know, the foundations of life. What makes you feel good about being a human being, that you have dignity, that you can live with that, you know, a certain minimum level of dignity, happiness, and so on, are just not there. And when you look whether there's a possibility, even with all manner of promises, you know, Big Four and whatnot, you do not see it. The stories that we get out of media, platforms like yours, like newspapers and other television stations, social media, are very depressing, extremely depressing. That there's no likelihood in the foreseeable future that the situation will improve, that instead it will get worse, you know, because of the amount of looting of what little or much there is in this country by a small elite group in the country. So yes, people are angry. Perhaps it just hasn't got to a tipping point where they translate their anger into something collective and big and express themselves in such manner. But you must have seen around the country, different sectors, different people, different ages, different communities, every so often, almost every day, there are people expressing themselves angrily in public, demonstrating on the roads, protesting and so on, which is important, because protest is an extremely important civic action tool for civic action to speak to power. It's extremely important. So people are angry, but let's not imagine that it will not get to a point where it becomes collective. The translation of anger into civic action or something active becomes collective. It will most likely, because when you look at the future, when you look at whether there's a promise that something will change, and you judge the future based on your most recent experience, historical experience, that given what we've gone through, are there prospects, unless something radical happens, are there prospects continuing the way we are going, that things will get better? And in this case, the context is the kind of government that we have. We have had this government since 2013. Is there any likelihood that these people who are governing this country will do any better?
Yeah, let's wait and see. You mentioned something about doctors, because you're directly involved in this. You've scored your good grades in high school. You're admitted in a school of medicine. And those days when you actually in school of medicine, you are assured of a job at the end of the 6 years, 7 years. What happened?
There's a saying right now that there's a rising tide of ignorance in governance, in terms of, and recently we saw our governor, Nairobi County, listed a number of things, and number 15 of them, you know what he was saying? That the grades you scored in high school at the universities don't matter. When you come out, hustle like all of us.
Wow.
And I want to make a comment about that.
Wow.
When someone is spending their time to be a teacher, to be a scientist, to be engineer, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, that is investment. It's the same as the person who is spending their time to be a good farmer, to be a pastoralist. What we are trying to say is that when you want to use my taxes, Joseph's taxes, and all of us taxes to give fertilizer, and we should give fertilizer to people, but you're not employing the teacher, or you're not employing the doctor, you're trying to say that it is not useful to go to school. And that is ignorance. That is ignorance fighting back. And the thinkers like ourselves must fight back. And this is what is happening in this country. So people are not employed, and we have right now almost 2,500 doctors who are not employed or are underemployed. And this has been happening deliberately. And I wanted to make a comment, because you mentioned the World Bank, and it is organizations like the World Bank that are misleading government. Because the World Bank here in Kenya advised our government that if they stopped employing people, they will improve what they call the ease of doing business index because of availability of labor. But what the World Bank did not know, and what the World Bank perhaps knew, is that it is almost difficult to have an influx of income or investment coming into the health sector to employ doctors, to even give people health care. So they were expecting the International Finance Corporation, which is a wing of the World Bank, and the Abrages and these investment companies, to inject some capital because of unemployed doctors or unemployed nurses, so that they can make business. But that's not going to happen, because you and I do not have the income to purchase healthcare. How many Kenyans are able to go to Nairobi Hospital or Aga Khan and purchase healthcare? 96% of us still depend on the healthcare that's being given by the government. So what has happened is that you have a very severe shortage of workers, and specifically of doctors and nurses in public hospitals. So the many Kenyans go there, they don't get the services, then they complain, and then these people are overworked, and that means that they are a bit more not keen, leading to a lot of cases of malpractice. So that means even those people going to the hospital are suffering more. We are not reproducing, we are not employing. So it's a very
tight,
it's a
tight.
very
and
dire
you
case
mentioned
of
it, human
yeah.
capital. It catapults everything.
So,
Yeah.
so this ignorance, I think we have to fix our governance, and I think that's what Joseph was saying in a nutshell. We must fix our governance, and what you're talking about on our pricing, it should actually happen. Look at it this way: between 0 to 35 years of age, we are 65 of us in this country. If you put 0 to 40 years of age, we are 74%. If you look at suicide rates, they are higher in this population, between 15 to 35. You know why? Because of frustrations, unemployment. And people are taking their own lives because they are not understanding the external pressures that are leading them to depression. These external pressures are, there's something that we call decent work.
Yeah.
The ability of yourself to be proud that I am working. And work is much more than income. And I think you started saying it, that it's not just about the increases, which is true.
Yeah.
And we as labor leaders know that it is not just about the increase, but we also know about inflation and cost of living. So so most times we ask for the increase. But there's something called dignity of work, decent work.
Yeah.
When I go to work, and I am happy with my work, and I know that I've been given the right tools to apply my work, then I am very satisfied. Now, that is no longer there. So you have this youth, and they were talking to you in the streets. You saw what they said. Even when you're applying your border, you're being harassed. When you're hawking, you're being harassed. So you're not satisfied mentally. When you go back home, you have a child, you have a wife, you have a mother, you have people to feed, you have yourself. Then you start to think that you are the one who is not successful. Because the same people who are governing you badly and are taking a lot of debts and are stealing the money and are causing inflation, they're the same ones telling you, you're not working hard enough. You need to invest. We need to teach youth entrepreneurship. It's a lot of nonsense.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're winding up because of time. Thank you so much for coming to studio, because now, as it is, yes, if Kenya is ripe for revolution, I don't know what will happen, but it's tight out
The president himself said it. The president said that if we do not fix corruption, the people will
fix
Precisely.
it. He knows, and that's true. And the people will fix it.
But of course, if you go to the streets, my friend, you'll be tear gassed, you'll be arrested, anything can happen.
But that's the only way.
That's the only way. Interesting. But taking a short break. Thank you so much for coming. for of course, powerful sentiments. I hope you got solutions. That's my desire. Anyway, a short break you're taking, but when you come back, of course, Morning Live continues right here on Switch TV.